It's a while ago now. I started OP Talent, which is our management agency, about 9 years ago now. Prior to that, I used to work for a big German media company called Bertelsmann. They own Sony BMG Music and different big media properties. And I used to work in the physical side of media back then. And this is where it all came about. I used to be sales director of a division which did manufacturing. Germans are obviously very well known for their great manufacturing. And our business was with in the gaming industry, actually. In fact, the work we did was printing and pressing optical media, i.e. CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray discs, you name it. And it was for the big games publishers. I was the sales director of the gaming side of things. And so I would use YouTube as a resource just to see which games were coming out from all the big publishers, Sony, Microsoft, Activision, EA, or whatever. So I could pitch and make sure that our factories were full, making those physical copies of those games, from the print, the packaging, distribution, to anything you bought in the shops from Amazon or whatever. And one of our contracts was with Microsoft. We made most of the world's Xbox games. And so I needed to make sure that people who were making games on that platform were making them through us. So I would use YouTube as a resource for that. But also I had kids back then as well. I had one young one and a little baby on the way. And I wouldn't go out on a Friday night anymore. And we used to stay in on a Friday night, myself and some of the other young dads in the so-called NCT groups. And we would babysit while the mums went out for dinner or whatever on a Friday night. And we would stay in and play video games online. One particular game was Call of Duty, and we would play against each other. And I would watch YouTube for the other reason was to get better at that game, so I could beat these dads on a Friday night. So I saw YouTube and the rise of it, and what I found myself doing is just going for tips and tricks and get the latest news on the game we were playing that Friday night. When I went on, I was always finding and coming across the same sort of YouTube channels, the same individuals and creators, rather than sort of traditional gaming journalist reviews. It was actual personalities playing the game, and in a much more engaging way than just reading, a magazine of how to get better, or a review step by step. It was a lot more fun. So I found myself going back to these same couple of guys for my tips and tricks. That year, I was in LA for a convention called E3. It's a big gaming convention, about 100,000 people go each year. It's a huge industry event. And while I was there, I actually saw my first ever YouTuber. And this guy was one of the guys who I'd been watching on YouTube to get my tips on the game to get better. And he was there. Everyone's in their suits doing business on all the different big trade stands. And there was this slightly scruffy looking guy, who won't mind me saying that, but t-shirt and ripped jeans, I think, looking a bit sheepish, walking around. I thought, how did he get in? Because is he actually considered industry? And as I approached him to say hi, no one else sort of knew who he was. I noticed he had a fake name badge on. So he'd actually faked a role in the industry to get into E3. I went up to him because I recognized he was wearing a t-shirt and ripped jeans amongst everybody in their suits. So he stood out quite like a sore thumb. And I introduced myself, and I noticed he had a fake name badge. And I said to him, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were X-Jaws, the YouTube guy. I watch your videos." He goes, "Oh, I am, but be quiet. They wouldn't let me in without this pass." So he managed to get in. I mean, move on a couple of years, and people like him are actually running those shows, hosting them and promoting them now for big sums of money. So how it moved from not being allowed in or considered industry was quite remarkable, really. So we got into a chat, and he started asking me about the gaming industry and bits and pieces around it, because all he knew was video, and I knew the gaming industry pretty well. And we got chatting, and he said, "Oh, would you mind if we swap Skype details? I'd love to ask you a few questions for some of my sort of content." I just thought he was being polite. But we swapped the details, and as I held up my phone, he saw I had an iPhone case on the back, which he liked the look of, which was a Call of Duty iPhone case, which had just been given in a meeting, as it happened. It's worth $1. It was just a giveaway for the show. He says, "Oh, how'd you get one of those?" And I said, "Well, I've got a spare one if you want it." And I gave him the spare iPhone case. And he said, "Oh, thanks very much. What's your Twitter?" I said, I know I have one, but I don't use Twitter. This is, really early days for me. I think I had one follower who was my wife. And anyway, I had the app, so I opened it. I said, "Oh, here it is. Here's my handle." He said, "Thanks, great." And he tagged me a thank you with a photo of the phone case, hashtag E3 2012. And I gained nearly 1,000 followers off that one tweet within like 2 days. It was just ridiculous. And I learned then how to turn notifications off your phone as well, because it was ridiculous. So I saw that sort of influence, and it was all these Call of Duty gaming community fans who were his fans asking questions like, well, what's E3? How did you get to see the game early? How do I get one of these iPhone cases? Because it's a real collectible. It was all a bit alien to me. Anyway, I didn't think anything of it. He walked off, and he had a meeting. It wasn't with any of the big exhibitors there. It was just with a guy who looked a little bit shady in the corner of the room with a rucksack. I remember his face, very well, vividly. And it turns out that he did a video for a brand new product while there at E3 with this guy, which was kept in his rucksack, because I saw his channel the next week. And the channel was him doing a vlog of E3. So I thought, oh, I'll have a look, see what he got up to while he was there. He got up to absolutely nothing. He couldn't get in anywhere. He wasn't doing anything. The video was of him in a stairwell at the convention center with a table, reviewing a brand new gaming controller product. Now, this is what this guy had given him, a brand new sort of prototype of this product. And he did a review video, an unboxing, as you'd call it now, on his channel back in 2012, reviewing this brand new product. This product blew up overnight because it had some functionality on it to help you with your reaction time in gaming. So I was interested in it 2 reasons. One, oh, maybe I should get one of these controllers so I can beat the dads on the Friday night. It was like there was a new product version in the market. And anybody who played that game wanted one of these controllers because it might give them an advantage. Anyway, he said, good for meeting you. He said, he Skyped me actually that week as well. I said, oh, lovely to meet you, stay in touch. I thought, oh, well, that's brilliant, thanks so much. Thanks for the followers on Twitter. I said, oh, by the way, how do I get one of those controllers? Because I'd love to try one out. And he introduced me to the only employee, the founder of that company, who kindly sent me one. And while I was talking to him, I realized this video had blown up to about 1 million views, and the company was getting traction everywhere. And I said to the owner of the company, I said, if you don't mind me asking, did you pay Sam, that was his name, the YouTuber, to do that video? He said, oh no, but we let him keep the controller. I said, oh, that's great deal for you guys. And we started speaking about, well, maybe you should incentivize him to actually keep using it, keep promoting it, and sharing links in video descriptions and on Twitter to see if he can help build you again. He said that'd be a great idea. So we worked out sort of an ambassadorship deal for him. I was like, I didn't even work for him. I wasn't his manager. All I wanted was a free controller at the time. It was just that these thoughts came up. So I saw that opportunity there, and we used that as a bit of a case study just to myself, showing a few other companies we knew in the industry as to this. There's something going on here. There's something here on YouTube where there's an actual audience where people are vested into an individual enough to buy a product or be very influenced by what they're doing over just traditional media. And so that's where those sort of things started. I also then, the following month, there was a convention in Germany called Gamescom, which we exhibited at. And because of all my new Call of Duty Twitter followers, everyone was asking how to then, what happens at this convention? Are we able to go and see this game early and play? And one of the guys who tweeted about this and had followed me from that free iPhone case tweet was a guy called Ali A. He's still one of the biggest YouTubers in the world, biggest gamers. He ended up being our first client as well. And he actually said, well, how do I get to this event and get in the game? Well, we exhibited there. So I just replied to him privately and said, well, you can have a VIP ticket and I'll get you front of queue passes, and by all means, just hop over. And he said, you know what, I think I will. And I met him off the plane, and we hung out a little bit and played some games in between meetings. And by the end of the week of him walking around and bumping into loads of people I knew and introduced him to, he looked at me and he saw the opportunity himself. He said, you know what, I need an agent. There's such opportunity in this business. And the penny just dropped for me that I was in the middle of this physical digital shift to YouTube, A, for personal use, but B, because I was interested in the gaming side as well. Plus seeing these YouTube personalities, but also knowing pretty much every tech and digital peripheral brand in the industry, I thought, you know what, I could actually just make a few calls here and see if there is actually something here. And that's really where it began. Even though we now knew the YouTubers, some of the key gaming talent, the biggest YouTubers were gaming talent back then. They still are really. It's the biggest genre outside sort of Vivo music on YouTube. These personalities have obviously, and we've helped them develop outside gaming. They're not just gamers anymore. They're entertainers in different ways. But at the beginning, it was the credibility factor. The industry, and particularly marketeers with budgets, saw these guys, to be fair, as kids in bedrooms. No professionalism, very risky to spend money on. And I really took it upon myself to break that myth down and educate the industry. They needed that the YouTubers needed a professional face and someone sort of dedicated to them to knock down doors and present them in the best light, really. So in terms of brands, it really took me to highlight the platform and take away the blinkers of the industry, who are so used to traditional marketing and physical marketing. And there was also a threat because, traditional media ignored YouTube for quite as long as they could, because ultimately it was their jobs and careers to protect. Where if you take the gaming journalists, which were written media, and like I say, very, very professionally good, very professional guys creating gaming reviews, etc. As soon as there's YouTubers doing it with a little bit more gusto and entertainment value, those are the guys getting the eyeballs, and they were a real threat, particularly to working with games publishers and brands in that space. So it took a lot of persistence and calls, and I'd say the first 3 years were cold calling. And luckily, I had a sales background, always been a sales director, so I've never been shy of picking up the phone and doing a sales pitch. But it took a few key case studies to get the ball rolling, really. And so we had something to present to the top brass at different agencies and marketing brands to actually take us seriously. I remember the very first one which stuck out in my head, and it's still a Google case study to this day of how to grow a YouTube channel and a brand on YouTube. One of our first clients was KSI. You should know him through YouTube, but also music these days. But he used to be a FIFA YouTuber. He used to play the video game FIFA, and we actually got in touch with Rio Ferdinand, Manchester United footballer at the time, because he enjoyed the game too, and he was quite new and at the forefront of, I'd say, the traditional media in terms of understanding YouTube and what it can do for you. He loved Twitter. I think even back then he had 2 million followers. KSI probably only had a couple 100,000 at the time. But the difference was the engagement between the two. So KSI was getting 1.5 million views on every YouTube video, even with only a few 100,000 subscribers. Rio had a few million Twitter followers, played for Man United, and was making videos with players like Ronaldo and amazing content, in the access to the dressing room and to the training ground. And he had his own YouTube channel. He had about 20,000 subscribers, but he was only getting a few thousand views a video, just driven from his Twitter and his social media following. Whereas KSI was able to drive many, many more times than that. And he would be, of the two, you would have said at the time, well, he's not the celebrity, he's not the influencer, it's Rio Ferdinand. Well, we did a collaboration where KSI went to Rio's restaurant in Manchester. It's a restaurant called Rosso, which he owns. And they played a game of FIFA in the middle of the restaurant at lunchtime. KSI turned up in a very flamboyant outfit with all the bravado, and it was a really well-edited video. Anyway, they played 2 games of FIFA. KSI did the first one on his channel, which did about 2.5 million views in that first week. And then they played a rematch on Rio's channel. And the idea was to drive traffic to Rio's channel to watch it. Nearly 2 million went across and watched it on Rio's channel. His subscribers went up from 20,000 to over 100,000. And his average views from that point went from, I think it was an average of about 5,000 to 25,000 on all future videos on an upward scale. And Google saw this and actually got in touch with Rio's team, who then reached out to us to explain what had happened, because they saw this channel, Rio's channel is called 5, just basically blow up overnight. And we explained what had happened. They saw the exact timings of the video and the upload and the links to KSI's channel. They saw his influence, and they made a nice deck for us showing how KSI had basically created this brand on YouTube for a celebrity or for a football star with his own following. And you could just see that the beauty of the case study was the engagement. From far less actual followers, KSI was able to drive more traffic than the celebrity with many followers. And there was the difference, really. What are the values of the different followers, just following someone or actually engaging with somebody? And that case study was one of the very first ones which really took off.